Okay, good morning everyone. We are from Risk Taking Group. First of all, I want to introduce our members first. The first one is me, Indah Rizkia Putri Warganegara as the first speaker. And then there are Paradina Primarini Nursari as the second speaker and Rini Putri Malinda as the third speaker. And the last speaker is Esawidi. Here we will explain about uh, risk taking. The first one is about definition and then factors that influence in risk taking, and then there are characterization of risk taking and advantages and also disadvantages of high and low risk taking, and the last one is reflection. The first one I will explain about the definition of risk taking. Let me show you our PowerPoint. As we know that in terms of language learning, there are many general factors that influence second language learning, and one of them is personality factors. Personality factor within a person is assumed that it contributes in some way to the success of language learning. And what is actually personality? Here is Richards and Smith, 2002, who define personality as those aspects of an individual's behavior, attitude, beliefs, thoughts, actions, and feelings which are seen as typical and distinctive of that person and recognized as such by that person and others. And on the other hand, a number of personality have been discovered such as self-esteem, inhibition, risk-taking, anxiety, empathy, and extroversion as personality factors. And in this presentation, we will explain more about risk-taking. So there are some experts who define risk-taking, and the first one is Brown 2000 identifies risk-taking as one of the important characteristics of successful learning in a second language or foreign language. Risk-taking defined as a personality factor which concerns the degree to which a person is willing to undertake actions that involve a significant degree of risk. And then not only that, there is PB 1983 who defines risk-taking as a situation where an individual has to make a decision involving choice between alternatives of different desirability. The outcome of the choice is uncertain, and there is also a possibility of failure. Meanwhile, Young 1999 assumes that risk-taking behavior is learners' initiative or voluntary participation. Learners' initiative or voluntary participation includes self-selection of a turn in the absence of a solicit, either general or personal, from the instructor, or interception of a turn during another student's turn. And here, general solicit is a request made by the teacher for a response from anyone in the class. Personal solicit is a teacher question to respond directed at a particular individual student. So according to the definitions that I already stated from some experts above, it can be concluded that the concept of risk-taking contains the psychological traits of language learners which imply their behavioral trend. More specifically speaking, students with risk-taking behaviors possess the following traits. There are 5 following traits at least. The first one is willing to receive challenging tasks when there is no certain success. The second one is choosing tasks which involve intermediate and reasonable risk instead of excessive risk. The third one is sharing and advocating ideas they believe in when those ideas are unpopular. And the fourth one is willing to use a critical appraisal way to assess their work or thinking and correct thinking when successfully challenged. And the last one is willing to be incorrect and daring to take on risky tasks that might end up with failure. In summary, risk-taking refers to the willingness to undertake extremely challenging tasks, the braveness of making mistakes, and the confidence of advocating unconventional or unpopular ideas, which contributes to English language learners' improvement and personal growth and accomplishments. That's all about the definition of risk-taking. And the next part will be explained or will be presented by Paradina. Thank you for your attention.
I'm Faradina. I would like continue my group presentations. My part here is explaining about factors influencing risk taking. There are two factors influencing risk taking. The first one is internal factor and the second one external factor. In internal factor, that you can see from the PPT, uh, it is about individual variables. The first one about age and gender. Uh, Kogan and Wellets claim that when appropriate and needed, men and women can tolerate risk-taking situations. And for age, actually, young students tends to be more risky than old students. However, some as age, when it is needed, old students also can be a risk-taking students. Actually, it is depend on chance of outcomes. Uh, when the outcomes support them, and then even young or old students are more willing to take the risk. And then the second one is locus of control. Internal reasons or internal locus of control, cause of directions. For example, a student who is taking risk taking, based on the internal locus of control, they think that the outcomes of their actions depends on them. Uh, Instead of that of external locus of control, it is about fate, luck, or chance. It means that the outcomes of their actions is depends on luck, chance, and other people. And external locus of control, student who possess external locus of control tends to be more risky than internal locus of control because they think that the outcomes of their action cannot be handled because it is beyond of their control. And about the external locus of external variables, there are two: situational variable and social variable. Situational variable is about reward and experience. When there is a reward, then students might be more risky, more willing to take a risk. Text, for example, my friend there actually, uh, she tried to give a reward to their students if they can answer the questions correctly, and the result is her students almost are more willing to take risks because she provide a reward. However, it also depends on the difficulty level of difficulty of the task. Even if she provide uh, a reward when the task is too high or too risky for them, well, they won't take a risk because, well, let's say it will cause loss of their face, for example. On the other hand, it also depends on the experience according to Cervantes. Uh, Text, for example, when in the previous meeting, A student took a risk, yet the result is not satisfied. She has to suffer a loss for the of her face, for example, or a yell from their friends, or even from their teacher, the correction from their teacher. Then in the next meeting, she doesn't want to take risks. She turns to be low risk taking students, or even, well, do not want to take risks at all, or silent one, for example. On the other hand, about the social variables, it is about group work and individual work. When the students work in a group, they tends to be more high risk taking. They are willing to take risks rather than when they work individually, because they in the group work they have a supporter who will support their idea and then let and the next one is when they work in group, he tends to have more input from their friends before they express their idea, and it will make them confident to take risks. And actually, external and internal factor influencing risk taking, uh, both of them relate to each other. Text, for example, like I said before, men and women. Well, when a woman takes a risk or is categorized as more high risk taking, but she will not take a risk when the situation do not support it or the task is too hard for her. And in conclusion, situation, external factor and internal factor relate to each other. They have connections and they cannot be separated. That's my opinions about factor influencing risk taking. And thank you for listening this video, and I'm sorry for the mistake I made when presenting and explaining my part. Have a good day.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning everyone. Okay, my name is Rini Malinda. I want to continue my group presentation. I'm as the third presenter, and here I want to tell you about the advantages and disadvantages of high and low risk taker. And this is the advantages and disadvantages of high risk takers. The first is more resistant to fossilization, and then the students show a considerable increase of the linguistic input obtained. Since they are willing to try out new linguistic items and constantly look for the opportunities to learn the language, they are become more resistant to fossilizations. Another advantage of high level of risk-taking corresponds to the quantity and the quality of the linguistic input that learner receives. Students who display risk-taking behaviors in the second language classroom may show a considerable increase of the linguistic input obtained in comparison to low risk-taking students. In addition to the evidence of fossilized pattern and the quality of the input that learner receives, it has been suggested that high risk takers exhibit high levels of linguistic fluency. According to Azzouri and Fatofatnia in 2010, they found that high risk takers had a negative beliefs about using translation in the second language class. Although the authors don't regard this idea as an advantage of high risk taking, they acknowledge the fact that high risk takers are eager to learn and prefer to use the target language regardless of embarrassment of failure instead of translating input into their mother tongue. Okay, despite these advantages, the literature has highlighted that high-risk-taking students should be cautious about two factors, that is accuracy and fear, because they represent major obstacles for the successful learning of second language. Okay, now we are going to the advantages and disadvantages of high and low risk taker in low risk taker. The first is they are accurate but lack fluency, and experience lower level of fear to could hinder their speaking ability. Low risk takers avoid reducing their linguistic accuracy levels when speaking. Then they become very concerned user of the language. Before being neutered, their linguistic products are edited. When their structures are expressed, they are accurate but lack fluency. However, research on this topic recognize the advantages that low risk takers might have by being accurate speakers. However, the reasons for such claim have not been studied in depth. Low risk takers gain an advantage in comparison to high risk taking students in terms of fear, since they are expected to experience lower level of fear that could hinder their speaking ability. Additionally, low risk takers hold a very positive opinion about translation, since they don't like uncertainty and are more cautious about their speech. It's not surprising that they find in the translation an opportunity to check what they are going to say in their native language before actually saying in the target language. Okay. In the other hand, according to Cervantes in 2013, points out that the timidity and inhibition which characterize low-risk taking speakers can lead to the development of announced patterns, like a fossilized structure in the interlanguage of such speaker. Okay, my friends, that is about the advantages and disadvantages of high and low risk taker. After this, my friends, will tell you about the reflection. So I think enough about my explanation. I'm sorry if I have mistake. I close. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
The last part is about the reflection of risk-taking and teaching English for foreign language. Before, my friend have told you about the definition of risk-taking itself, and they also explained you about the factors influencing the risk-taking in teaching English for foreign language. They mentioned there are 4 factors that affecting the risk-taking. The first one is situational variables. The second one is social variable, that group versus individual decision. And the third one is the age and gender, and for the individual factor there are age and gender, and the last part is the locus of control. So these factors are take a part in take risk situational. And they also mention about the advantages and disadvantages of high and low risk takers. So the risk taking itself have confirmed that learning are expected to occur in environment where the language students have opportunity to take risks in learning and have encouraged to do so. So in learning, the students are expected to minimize making mistake. So they will be gain several advantages by using this risk taking during the learning. They will express their idea of fluency without feel hesitate in making mistake. They also will have positive vibes about the translation and make them easily absorb the new information and try the new linguistic items. So expert Gildhill and Morgan 2000 say that there are three crucial aspects about the language teaching may stimulate healthy risk-taking practices. The first one, fostering constructive relationship, is considered as essential in English second language classroom. The second one, the classroom environment should be equal conducive to risk-taking. So the conducive environment will promoting comfortable atmosphere for the learning and they will be feel comfortable use the risk taking during their learning. And the third one is teaching sequence must keep in direct relationship with the subject matter that risk taking are expected to learn. So the teacher should take a role in this risk-taking situation. So according to Lee and NG 2010, the teacher should be a supporter of effort, linguistic attempts, and decisions made by the students, no matter what the results are. So the teacher should not be disregard of the fact that some students feel more confident and comfortable while talking with their friends and have discussion. Rather than they are producing language in front of classroom, in front of the teachers that in fact there are English speaking person. For this reason, those students who seem risk afraid should be provided with the opportunity to take risks in group settings before prompting themselves to undertake risky activities in front of the language teacher.